Hey friends, Jessie here. It's been a minute since I shared a new video and I had a little time today to get on the mat and I thought to myself, this is too good not to share with my friends on the internet. So good to see you. If I've never practiced with you before, again, I'm Jessie. My pronouns are they and she. Um, I had a baby at the end of last year, so like my body is changing and my practice is changing. I think that's part of why I haven't shared as much as I was, is because I'm still figuring out what's going on in here. But today, something that I was interested in sharing is um, some kind of low to the ground hip and hamstring stuff. So come seated with your hips on your heels or grab a block, a bolster, any of the props you have. Feel free to use them at any time, even if I don't suggest it. Do what feels right in your body. And then let your hands rest somewhere comfortable. Maybe let your eyes close if that feels safe and good. Take a few breaths. Your body's allowed to change. And I know I notice on the mat when I resist that, how much harder it is to be in my body. When we're like struggling with ourselves, there's, you know, an amount of acceptance that has to happen before we can open or strengthen or release or whatever the thing your body needs is. First, we kind of have to show up with it and make a seat for it at the table. So, whatever you've got today, whatever's coming to your asana, to your seat, to your mat with you, just give it a little space. Even if it's something challenging or less than ideal, just say thank you to your body for being your body. We all have our own stuff. Whatever yours is just as welcome here as the things you're proud of or the things you're good at, quote unquote. Notice what it might feel like to make space for more of you. Push down into the ground, whatever is touching your mat, and then reach your arms as high in the air as you want. Take a big full breath in, and then let your breath and arms fall back down. One more time, just like that. Reach your arms up, big breath in. And then release arms, breath, jaw, pelvis. You're going to twist to the right. Bring your left hand to your right leg, your right hand to either your low back or the ground, or maybe there's a chair or something behind you. Everything's a prop if you're creative enough. I know all of you are. I feel like I know the coolest folks. So you'll make it work with what you got. And then go the other way when you're ready. Take your time. I like to stay in the middle a little bit and kind of let things move back on their own before I go all the way in the other direction. So take your time, move with your breath, your body, with whatever props or animal or human companions are with you. This is George Cat for anyone that hasn't met him before. He's in like all the videos. He's a star. He loves yoga. Yeah. Couple more deep breaths. And then when you're ready, when your body and your breath, you're like, okay, it's time to unwind. Come all the way back through the middle. A couple of breaths here. If you'd like, you could move through some seated cat and cow. Let your fingertips reach towards your knees, round your back, tuck your chin. And then drag your hands back towards your hips. Reach your chest up, lean back. A couple of those, both directions. And then come all the way back through center. Notice what has already started to shift in your body. So I know like one thing I'm experiencing is like my feet are a little bit like ready to move and change position. Notice that. My spine feels a little taller. Whatever it is, notice it. And then decide what to do. Do you want to sit and stretch more? Are you ready to come to hands and knees? What do you think, George? Yeah, I'm ready to come to hands and knees. And we'll meet up there eventually. So take your time. If there's a couple more moments in your seated shape that feel good for you. When we get to all fours, we're going to move through cat and cow, some spinal waves. Tonight, we're going to do a couple versions of this. So start with your toes tucked under on the mat. You might have to like choke up a little on your like shins and knees. You might want to grab a blanket for under your kneecaps. And then we're going to move belly to the floor, chest melts, hips tip, and then go the other way. Push into the ground, arch your back. Try to round places that maybe aren't sure they want to. Let your head get heavier. Push the ground away. And then release. Come back through the middle. Couple more. Move with your body. Try not to go too extreme, too fast in either direction. All the in-between places deserve a little attention too. And then come back through the middle. Release the tops of the feet. So now we're going to press into the tops of the feet specifically. I want you to peek back at your feet. Notice like my toes were definitely like turning in. See if you can point your toes straight back from your ankles and your knees, almost like your shin and foot were one big foot. Maybe like a hobbit foot, right? Like some big surface to press into. You might even want to press out through the pinky edges of your feet. If you push down into like your shins and knees more, what happens? And then move through cat and cow. So I notice immediately that when I push into like the tops of my ankles and shins, I feel different places in my back and body. None of it's like better or worse, right, than before. Like, ooh, sometimes you have to like shake it out a little bit. But notice like how you've changed just from one shape, one asana to the next. Not the same cat and cow even as a moment ago. And then come back through center. You might want to like shake it out a little bit. If you're sort of exploring this, you might be like, wow, that was like really hard in fill in the blank spot. And that's okay too. You might be like, I felt the same thing. That's okay too. We're going to add on. So from hands and knees, you're going to step your right foot back behind you, toes tuck under, and see if you can, again, step in a little bit so that you can get as much of onto the ball of the foot as you can without hyperextending your knee. So maybe even put a little bend in your right knee here. And then push back through your ankle, the middle of your foot. Push into your knuckles of your hands and reach your head forward. Draw your low belly in and up. And then release. Switch sides. So the idea here is that you're getting an engaged stretch on the back of the leg. So that your foot, your ankle, your calf, maybe even into your hip and hamstring, like everything is on board. It's not just like one area getting all of it, which, depending on your hips, there's going to be a part that sort of like is naturally drawn to this. See if you can spread it out a little. That bend in the knee helps you extend more potentially. So take a couple more breaths and then release. Sit back on your heels, shake out the wrists. It might even feel good to rave wrists, right? Do, 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 do. That's how old I am. The strong bad doo 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 doots. Okay. Great. Sorry, I got thinking about strong bad and totally lost my train of thought. Yes. So come back through the middle. This time we're going to press the top of the left foot down and bring the top of the right foot into the arch of your foot on the bottom and sit back on your heels for a very intense foot stretch. A foot smush really is a better way of thinking about it. And the smush part is like, think about both of your feet like expanding, kind of melting into each other and the ground. We're not going to be here too much longer. I'm just distracting us a little bit. Maybe spread the toes a little more and then switch sides. So you're going to come forward, you're going to press down, sit back. Ooh, had a little adjustment there. Notice, I know in my body, my tendency is to want to lean forward to kind of take weight out. So if you need to take weight out, use that as a strategy. But otherwise, maybe sit back more. Ooh. Press into the tops of both feet. Breathe, if I didn't say that yet. Oh, sorry, this type of stuff eats my brain. And then come all the way back forward, shake it out. Okay, so now we're gonna do those calf stretches again. So it doesn't matter which foot back behind you. I stepped my left foot back. Start with the stretch. Reach your heel back. You might feel it in a different place now. And then swing your other leg, so that would be my right leg, off the edge of the mat to the right. Spin your back foot down flat on the floor, toes point to the long edge of your mat, and then reach your top arm up and overhead. So here, you can move your top arm, roll things out, or stretch things a certain way. You can challenge your balance and strengthen your outer hips by lifting the back foot up. Try to stay a nice long line. Try to hug everything towards center if that's the option you're picking. And wherever you are, push down into the ground to get more space someplace else. One more big deep breath. And then exhale, both hands and knees to the floor. You could either sit back on your heels or do cat and cow, some kind of child's pose. And then come back through the middle and go the other way when you're ready. So if you're with me, your right foot steps back, but either way, you do the second side. The other knee swings out like a kickstand. Flatten the back foot. Reach your top arm up and open. You don't have to do all the same stuff on this side if this side is feeling different or something else is here. So try not to get too stuck on what was or what might be, and take a few breaths with whatever already is. Eventually, you're going to bring your hands and knees back to the ground. Cat and cow, child's pose, all the same options. We're coming towards a downward facing dog or puppy pose. If you don't already know puppy pose, we're right here, so let's take one. You're going to keep your hips stacked over your knees. Toes are tucked under or flat. So remember what those felt like for you and pick one where you can stay more active in your legs. And then walk your hands out. Keep your shoulders a little lifted so you can melt your chest and let your head go. Down dog spine with knees on the floor. So I'm still pushing into my hands, my arms are activated, my spine is lengthening. Looks a lot like down dog with less pressure on your wrists, on your legs, kind of less pressure on everything. So if you're not feeling down dog, that's always there. And if you are feeling it, go ahead, lift your hips up, crawl into this shape, a little upside down V. When I first get into down dog, I like to pedal out through my knees or kind of swivel hips side to side. You can drop your heels in one direction or the other. Might feel good to shake out your head or flutter your lips. And then lift your right leg up into the air. Stretch your foot back behind you. Take a deep, full breath in, and then exhale. Draw your right knee in towards your nose. Step your right foot up. Keep your left hand down, and bring your right hand to your right hip or thigh. Back knee can stay lifted or find the floor. And then as much opening as your chest and shoulders want is the right amount to take. You can lean back. You can open up or reach behind you. Take one more deep breath. And then exhale, right hand down, step back, downward facing dog. We're not going to do too many chaturangas, but I am going to offer one now just to get things warmed up. So as you're ready, if you'd like, come forward to plank. Take a deep breath in, knees up or on the mat, and then exhale, bend your elbows, lower all the way to the floor. When you get there, roll your shoulders back, lift up, low cobra, press into the tops of your feet and shins like we did in that cat and cow. See if you can use that to lengthen your spine, draw your chest forward and up, and then exhale, release. Tuck your toes, push back, puppy pose, child's pose, or downward facing dog. Take a few big breaths. And then lift your left leg, stretch back, take a big full inhale, and exhale, draw your left knee in, step your foot forward, right hand stays down, left hand comes up. Up is subjective. So, a lunge with a twist. Some movement for the thoracic spine, for the upper back, something for the hips. You got it. Whatever you're doing is probably the thing. That's it. One more big deep breath. And then exhale, both hands back to the mat. Step back, move through your vinyasa. So whatever connects you to you in this moment is what comes next in sequence. That might be, chaturanga and a back bend. That might be sitting back and shaking out or rolling out your wrists. If rave wrists is too corny for you, you could write the alphabet with your wrists. It's a good way to get all these different points of articulation. You might want some water or some time in child's pose. Then we'll meet up back in downward facing dog. From here, you're going to take your right foot and you're going to bring between your big toe and your first toe onto the heel of your other foot, around your ankle bone and tendon there. And you're going to kind of push back into your left leg as much as it feels good to. And then we're going to switch sides. And then come back through the middle. Lift your right leg up. This time, if you want to stack and open the hips, you're more than welcome to. Add a little front body quad opener situation. And then bring your right leg forward and up. We're going to bring the back knee to the floor and lift up Anjanai Asana. Again, feel free to cushion your back knee with something. Fold your mat over. Bring your cat over. You're going to swing your back foot off the edge of your mat behind you. We're going to do it two ways. So the first way, we're going to tuck the back toes under. So again, you kind of might have to get yourself there. So your right leg is facing the front of the mat like warrior two. See what we're doing here? And then the back leg is straight behind you like a kickstand. So your hips are doing two different things, right? We want both of them to open, but this one is more of an external rotation. This one's got this grounding energy, this back leg where we're pushing through the whole leg. So with your toes tucked under, see if you can charge up your left leg and use that to bend into the front knee and sit the hips a little deeper. That's it. One more deep, full breath. And then exhale, hands around the front leg. Swing your back toes, behind you. Tuck the back toes under and lift your hips, pyramid pose. If you want to grab blocks. I have blocks. I want them. Have I ever shown you guys the vampire cat fang marks from George on my blocks, my foam blocks? So just a few more breaths in your pyramid pose. See if you can lengthen your spine as you square your hips forward. So your right outer hip tacks back, your left outer hip squares forward. From there, reach out through your chest and shoulders, reach out through your middle back, and then let your head and shoulders come down towards the front leg. Rebend the right knee. Bring both arms inside your front leg. So if you've got your blocks, you might want to bring them with you, or you can ditch them at any point. We're going to crawl our arms on a diagonal. Back foot can either be squared like crescent lunge, angled like warrior one, or down like warrior two. It'll do different things for your back leg and potentially the rest of your body. So feel free to explore where it feels most interesting in your legs today. And then find a place to stay and breathe. Keep walking yourself around to the long edge of your mat. Wide leg forward fold. Prasarita-Padottanasana. Push into the pinky edges of your feet to fold a little deeper. And then come back up and around the back foot. So what we're going to do is come into Anjanai Asana towards the back edge of your yoga mat. So back knee is down, chest and shoulders lift up. Arms can do whatever you want. Couple breaths here. And then we're going to swing the back foot, the right foot behind us, toes tuck under. Arms open wide to the side. So the more active we can get through the support leg, the more support we have to engage the front leg, draw the heel back, and then use those muscles to sit down deeper in the pelvis. This is the idea. One more deep, full breath. And then hands come down Swing your back foot back, and then tuck and lift, pyramid pose. Pyramid-ish, you can kind of adjust whatever needs adjusting. And try to stay active through the feet. Front hip reaches back, so the left hip, George, would reach back. Right hip squares forward. Spine gets long, and then when you kind of reach like the point where you can't lengthen anymore, start to release in the upper back. As long as it's not pulling in the low back, you're probably in a safe space to explore. It's when it starts to pull in the low back that we really need to lift more and engage again. So find a balance here, a couple more breaths. And then rebend your front knee, bring your hands inside your leg. Again, 3 options with the back foot. Squared like crescent, angled about 45 like a warrior 1, or all the way down to the floor like a warrior 2 or side angle. And then arms crawl out on a diagonal. Chimera dog is what I like to call this one. It's like a hybrid. And then walk it around, wide leg forward fold one more time. And lift back up. Okay, we're going to swing the front toes, so it'll be the right toes to the right. And we're going to, I don't know, there's not really a graceful way I had planned to do that. You're just going to bring your back foot down into this modified warrior 2 shape. So what you're going to do is you're going to play around here with either toes tucked under or foot flat, using it like one foot to see which one you get more support and more openness in the pelvis with. One of them's probably harder to do than the other one, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's the one you should or shouldn't do, if that, is helpful. You want to just keep active in the whole back leg. You want to be in a place where when you push into the foot, you can engage all the muscles in the leg and then maybe sit a little deeper. And then switch sides. So again, nothing too fancy. Just step one foot out and one foot back. So this side, you don't have to do the same thing. You don't have to prefer the same thing. Back toes tucked under. See what that feels like. Back foot flat. See what that feels like. Pick one to spend a few breaths in. And then re-extend. And come on out of there. You can just sit back on your heels or pick a resting place. Again, water. Excuse me. Do what you gotta do. We're gonna explore one more round of Warrior 2. Option to bring it up to like lifted, quote unquote, regular Warrior 2. So if you want to keep exploring knee on the floor, healthy selfie. And if you're ready to come on up into Warrior 2 with your back foot on the floor. Yeah. So the thing that happens for a lot of us is that our back knee collapses, our ankle collapses, our foot doesn't press down, and then the hip doesn't do the thing where it enables the front hip to move deeper. So for a second here, extend the front leg, push down into it, push down into your back foot. See if you can lift up, maybe even like reach your arms up, engage all the muscles on the front and back of your leg, and then push back foot back, front knee forward. So legs are going opposite directions, but they're both lifting. And pelvis is sitting straight down. So you don't want to be too sheared forwards or leaning, in. You want to be sitting boop, boop. That's it. And then switch sides. Whew. And again, with your front leg extended, see if you can just get a sense for that lifting energy. I think it's a little easier to access with the legs extended, with them more straight. And then try to keep that engagement as you push in opposite directions with the energy, the movement in your feet. Whew. Yeah, like if you knock yourself over, that's good. It probably means that you're figuring out where some edges are. Try to sit down into the space that your legs make. That's it. And then extend your front leg. We didn't do it on the first side, but we'll do it on the way back around. Come into triangle, Triconasana. Reach forward and out. Keep that same lift from your feet all the way up to your pelvis. Grab a block if you want. Top arm, this would be your right arm, could be on your hip, overhead, anywhere that feels good. See if you can push into your feet so much that you lift up through the pelvis, chest, and torso. And then exhale, release, walk it around. If you want to pause in a wide leg forward fold for a breath or two, help yourself. And eventually come around into triangle pose with your right hand down. So interestingly enough, you'll come at triangle from a different direction here. Like we came from standing down before, and now we're coming from the ground up. So see how that changes what you're experiencing. So again, even just like side to side, our bodies and our experience of our bodies are so different. And that's something that's been so helpful to me in my relationship with my body and like my environment and my, the change in my life. It's having a space on the mat that I can be like, oh, right, like everything just changes all the time. And we just get good at showing up for change and adapting, using that as a way to grow, to shift, to move with the tides of our life. And when you're ready, release, come back, maybe one last downward facing dog. Maybe one last vinyasa of some kind, if moving through chaturanga or taking one last something feels good. We're going to start to make our way down towards the ground. So we'll meet up in child's pose. I'm going to walk yourself up. One last little foot stretch here before we come onto the ground. Tuck your toes under. As many of them as you can get. I kind of even like to lift my knees for a moment to get more of my foot under me. Whoo, and then we're sitting back for toes pose, folks. It's hard. Keep hugging your ankles together. Try to sit back, even though it's, again, if you lean forward, you'll take weight out of your toes. But see if you can just stay and breathe. We won't be there too much longer. Your feet deserve this, believe it or not. Oh, it feels wild, right? One more deep breath. And then exhale, come forward. Oh, kick out the feet a little. Bring the feet as close together as they'll go. Inner ankles and toes touch. And then flatten the feet, sit back. The counter pose, equally juicy, I find. Try to smush the entire front of the shin and ankle down into the ground. Kind of back where we started, right? And just notice, like, you're probably noticing completely different things about you. And the only thing that's really changed about you in the past, little while in class is that you've been connecting to and like moving with your body. So good work. Good work. Come on forward. We're going to swing our legs around. I'm going to face the camera, but you can face whatever direction you want. Bend your right knee. Swing your left leg out to the left. And then one arm to either side of your leg. Take a deep, full breath in. If you want to sit up on some height, if your low back is collapsing, grab a blanket or a bolster. And then crawl yourself down towards your long leg. If there's resistance, just breathe around it. Just like whatever we conceptually brought to the mat today, that, the us-ness that we brought to the mat today, the body brings stuff too that we don't even know is there until we pay attention. And so when you meet those places that feel stuck or sometimes even like uncomfortable, being like, oh, hey, like you get to be here too. Like you are also us. That's some Borg shit, huh? But yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like, resistance is futile, assimilation is imminent, or whatever the Borg says, right? Like, it's like, hey, grouchy hip, you are part of our body, and like, what do you need so that maybe you don't feel this way anymore? Just again, what was on my mind this morning that I was like, okay, let's move with that. Switch sides. So bend left knee, extend right knee. And then as much rotation towards the long leg and folding forward as is appropriate. And, you want to have like, you want to feel like you're expanding, but you don't want to feel like you're like slamming into the edge. So I like to kind of breathe in and then like back off a little bit. Maybe get a little taller through the spine and then a little deeper into the fold. If you want to put a prop, like my leg is way lifted. On the first side, it didn't bother me. On this side, I kind of want like something to press down into. Help yourself there. Take a few deep breaths. And then come on back up. Keep your bent knee bent and bring the other foot to meet it. Triconasana, blocks, blankets, no props at all of it's good. Sit up tall. You could stay right here if like pushing into the outer hips and lifting the spine feels like where you should be. You can also hinge at the hips and start to fold forward. But notice again what happens in the low back. Do you need support under the hips? Should you stay a little more lifted? You get to steer the ship here. As deep, as lifted, as intense or soothing as you'd like. And then come on back up. Move the blocks out of the way. Maybe bring them to either side of your mat. We're going to lie back and just take a little twist before we rest. So come all the way down. You're going to roll onto your left side and bring maybe a block or a blanket or a pillow underneath your right knee. You're going to open your right shoulder back as far behind you as it wants to go without your knee lifting off of the prop. You want to stay heavy in this top leg and let the upper back and shoulders maybe even come to a prop. You could put a pillow or a block under your shoulder. A couple of breaths. And then come on back out. Oh. One of the funny things about teaching online is like that fine line between, I don't want to, I don't know. It's like sometimes it's just I'm just doing yoga and you guys are just here with me and I forget. So sorry about that. Roll over to the right, scoot onto your right outer hip, bring your left knee up, as high up or as in line with the hip as you want. And then keep the left knee heavy and open the left shoulder back behind you. Again, onto a prop if you wish, or even if you just want to try it out and see what that feels like. There's no better except for how better feels. What feels better is best. So find that space for you. Take a few deep inhales and exhales. And then as you're ready to come out slow. And find a position to rest comfortably in for a minute or two. So you could just extend your legs out in front of you. You could bring your feet together and your knees apart. You could slide your blocks or bolsters under your legs in a place that feels supportive. Give yourself a few more breaths to commit to being comfortable where you are. We won't be here forever. Notice all the things that we made room for on the mat today. Different kinds of experience, sensation, the type of acceptance we have to have before we can really be with our bodies and move forward with them. We have to meet us where we are. And that's a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of dedication. And so take a deep breath in and a long breath out. Take a minute to rest because you deserve that too. Nothing to do but be here and breathe. Notice your breath moving in your body. And you're in your own space, you're on your own time. So if you don't want to move, please don't. This was not a very long Shavasana. But for the purposes of the video, if you're ready to get up, start to stretch and breathe. Make a little space where there's space to be made. It might feel good to draw your knees in towards your chest and roll over to one side for a breath or two. And then use your hands to push up. Come to an easy seated position, whatever that looks like for you. Let your hands rest on your legs, in your lap, maybe over your heart. One thing I can say for certain is that we all have the capacity to make more space in ourselves for ourselves. There's nothing, I tell my little, almost 10-month-old child, like, no feeling you have is too big for us. No problem you're ever going to face is something you have to face alone. And when I tell him that, I feel like I'm telling myself that. Um, and I think that that's really powerful to remind ourselves on the yoga mat that, like, there's no feeling in our body that we can't make space for, or that you have to just go it alone through. That one of the reasons we practice together, even when we're far apart, is that support and connection. And so take a deep breath in and big breath out. We'll always have enough space for ourselves when we show up to practice making it. And thank you all for sharing space with yourselves and each other and me. Heal yourselves, yogis. I'll see you soon.